So what do I do now?
You're $8 million a well to drill here. Who paid for this?
Well, there's a company in Odessa that finances spec wells 50-50 till recoup and 18% after that.
Well, what fucking planet does a company finance drilling at 50-50 and reduce to 18? What did you put up?
I don't have anything to put up.
So they financed the whole thing?
Yeah.
Let's start from the very beginning of the trailer, because the first few seconds alone set the tone for everything that's coming. And the tone is not good. Not for Tommy, not for CTT, and definitely not for anyone who thought this show was going to let these characters breathe for even 1 second. The trailer opens, and there's this heaviness to it right away. The music, the way it's cut, the way every single shot feels like it's building towards something terrible. It all hits you at once, and the first thing you really notice is Tommy. He's not in that confident, sure of himself headspace that we saw at the end of Season 2. That version of Tommy, the one who walked into that meeting with Galino and commanded the whole room, that guy feels like a distant memory in this trailer. What we're seeing now is a man who is starting to feel the weight of everything he's built, and more importantly, everything he owes. Because that's the thing about Tommy's situation that the show has been quietly setting up since the moment he shook hands with Galino. On the surface, it looked like a win, and in a lot of ways it was. He got the funding, he built CTT, he put together a crew of people he actually trusts, and he finally had something that was his. But Landman has never, not once, let any of its characters have a clean victory. There's always a price. There's always something hiding underneath the good news. And with Galino, that price was always going to be steep. The trailer makes that crystal clear. You can see it in the way Galino is framed in his scenes. He's not showing up as an investor checking in on his money. He's showing up as someone who owns a piece of Tommy. And he knows it, and he wants Tommy to know it too. And that dynamic, that slow, creeping realization that Tommy may have traded one cage for another, is what makes this trailer so unsettling. Because Tommy spent all of Season 1 and Season 2 working inside a system that was broken, corrupt, and dangerous. Monty's world was full of secrets and pressure and death. And Tommy survived all of it. He kept his head down, he did the work, he protected his family as best he could, and when it all finally fell apart, he walked away. He started over. He built CTT from scratch. And now here he is in Season 3, and the trailer is showing us that the new world he built might not be any safer than the old one. That's what makes it hit so hard. It's not just that Tommy is in trouble, it's that he thought he was finally out of trouble. And that gap between what he believed and what's actually happening, that's where all the tension in this season is going to live. Now let's talk about Galino specifically. Because this man is not playing games in this trailer. Every time he appears on screen, there's this quiet menace to him that just doesn't let up. He's not loud about it. He's not throwing threats around carelessly. That's actually what makes him so frightening. He speaks calmly, he moves calmly, and somehow that calmness makes everything he says feel 10 times more dangerous. There was that moment at the end of Season 2, that subtle, almost throwaway threat he made in the finale. And at the time, you could almost convince yourself it wasn't that serious. Maybe it was just Galino being Galino. Maybe it was just a reminder of who he is. But this trailer is making it very clear that it was a warning. And Tommy either didn't take it seriously enough, or he took it seriously and thought he could manage it. And either way, it doesn't seem to be working out. Because whatever CTT was supposed to deliver, whatever Galino was expecting in return for those millions, the trailer is suggesting that things are not going according to plan. And with a man like Galino, that's not a situation you want to find yourself in. What's really interesting is how the trailer handles the CTT crew in all of this. Because these aren't just background characters. Cooper, Rebecca, Nate, Dale, Thomas, Boss, Ariana. These are people Tommy handpicked. People he trusted with something he built for his family. And the trailer is giving us these glimpses of tension within the crew that feel really significant. It's not like everyone is falling apart or turning on each other, but there's a pressure there. You can feel it. The kind of pressure that comes when the thing you built together starts to crack under the weight of outside forces. And the outside force here is clearly Galino and whatever demands he's starting to make. So it's not just Tommy who's in trouble. It's everyone connected to him. It's the whole crew. It's CTT as a whole. And that makes the stakes feel enormous. Because this isn't just about one man's survival anymore. Tommy has a family to protect a business to protect, a crew of people who trusted him, and all of it is suddenly sitting in a very dangerous place. But here's what I keep coming back to when I watch this trailer. Tommy has been in impossible situations before. Season 1, Season 2. The man has faced pressure that would have broken most people, and he always found a way through. So the question isn't really whether Tommy can survive this. The question is what he's going to have to sacrifice to do it. Because that's how Landman works. Nobody gets out clean. Nobody gets everything they want. You survive, but you pay for it. And whatever Tommy ends up paying in Season 3, based on this trailer, it looks like it's going to cost him more than anything he's lost before. And that right there is what has me completely hooked on what's coming next. And while Tommy is dealing with all of that pressure from Galino, the trailer is also spending a serious amount of time on Cooper. And honestly, Cooper's storyline in Season 3 might be the one that hits the hardest emotionally. Because what happened at the end of Season 2, that moment where Cooper beat that man to death while protecting Ariana, that was always going to have consequences. At the time, it felt justified. It felt like Cooper doing what he had to do to protect someone he cared about. And yes, technically the man had a heart attack, so it's complicated, legally speaking. But complicated doesn't mean safe. And this trailer is making it very obvious that the people connected to that man have not forgotten what happened, and they are not the type to let something like that go quietly. This is the part of the trailer that made me genuinely nervous, because the world of Landman has always made it clear that power and connections matter more than the truth. It doesn't matter what actually happened that night. It doesn't matter that Cooper was protecting Ariana. What matters is who the victim was, who his people are, and what they're willing to do to settle the score. And from what the trailer is showing us, these are not people who deal in forgiveness. They deal in leverage. They deal in consequences. And Cooper, as young and capable as he is walking into something that he is not fully prepared for. You can see it in the trailer. There's a vulnerability to Cooper in these scenes that we haven't really seen before. He's always been this confident, almost fearless character. But whatever is coming for him in Season 3 is clearly getting under his skin. And that alone tells you everything you need to know about how serious this situation is. And then there's the Tommy and Cooper dynamic, layered on top of all of this, which is where it gets really emotional. Because Tommy, finding out that his son is being targeted, or that the consequences of that night are starting to catch up to Cooper, that is going to trigger something in Tommy that we genuinely have not seen before. Think about every version of Tommy we've watched across 2 seasons. We've seen him as an employee, as a fixer, as a strategist, as a leader. We've seen him angry, we've seen him desperate, we've seen him composed under pressure, but we have not seen him as a father whose child is in real, serious danger. And the trailer is teasing exactly that. There are these moments where you can see Tommy's expression shift. Not the calm, calculated look he usually carries, but something rawer and more frightened. And that version of Tommy is going to be unpredictable in ways that could make things even messier than they already are. Because when a man like Tommy stops thinking strategically and starts reacting emotionally, that's when mistakes happen. That's when lines get crossed. And in a world full of people like Galino, crossing lines has a cost. What makes this even more complicated is Ariana. Because Cooper put himself in that situation because of her. He protected her. And whatever comes next, whatever falls on Cooper's shoulders because of that night, Ariana is going to feel the weight of that too. The trailer gives us just enough of her to know that she's not standing on the sidelines while all of this unfolds. She's right in the middle of it. And depending on how the show handles her role in Season 3, she could either be the thing that holds Cooper together or the thing that pulls him further into the danger zone. Because that's the cruel irony of it all. The person he was trying to protect might end up being connected to the very thing that destroys him. And Landman loves that kind of painful, twisted irony. It's basically the whole engine of the show. Now let's shift over to Nate, because the trailer gives us some really interesting Nate moments that I think people are going to sleep on. Nate running the finances for CTT is a massive deal, and not just because he's good at it, it's because of what it means for his relationship with Tommy. These two have been through everything together. They survived Monty's world side by side. They turned down Cammy together. They built CTT together, and that bond is one of the few genuinely solid things in this entire show. But solid things get tested. And money, especially the kind of money Galino is throwing around, has a way of testing even the strongest relationships. The trailer is showing us Nate in some scenes that feel tense in a very specific, quiet way. Not explosive tension, just that slow, uncomfortable kind, where you can tell someone is carrying information they're not sure what to do with. And my read on that is that Nate is starting to see things in the financials or in the way Galino's people operate that are raising serious red flags. He's the one with his hands in the numbers. He would be the first to notice if something was wrong. And if Nate starts seeing things that Tommy doesn't want to face yet, that's going to create a friction between them that could be really painful to watch. Because here's the thing about Tommy and Nate's friendship. It's built on honesty and loyalty. They don't sugarcoat things for each other. They tell each other the truth even when it's hard. But what happens when the truth is something that could unravel everything they've worked to build? What happens when Nate has to walk into Tommy's office and say, "Hey, I think we have a problem that goes deeper than we realized"? That conversation, whenever it comes, is going to be one of the most important moments of the season. And based on the trailer, it feels like that moment is coming sooner rather than later. The pressure building around CTT is not the kind of thing that stays hidden for long. And Nate, being as sharp as he is going to be the first one to see the full picture. The question is what they do with that information once it's out in the open. And then there's Rebecca as COO. And I think her role in Season 3 is going to be bigger and more complicated than people are expecting. The trailer gives her this very specific kind of screen presence. She's not just managing operations, she's navigating something. There's a tension in her scenes that suggests she's being pulled in more than one direction. Whether that's pressure from Galino's side, or internal pressure within CTT, or something more personal, it's hard to say exactly from what the trailer shows. But what's clear is that Rebecca is not just a supporting player in this story. She's going to have her own arc, her own moments of crisis, and her own decisions to make that will affect everyone around her. And knowing how this show operates, those decisions are probably not going to be easy ones. Landman doesn't give its characters simple choices. It puts them in situations where every option has a cost, and you just have to pick which cost you can live with. Now let's talk about Cammy, because as much as this season is clearly centered around Tommy and everything falling apart around him, the trailer is making sure we don't forget that Cammy's story is far from over. And honestly, her arc in Season 3 might be the most psychologically intense thing this show has ever attempted, because where we left her at the end of Season 2 was in this incredibly isolating place. No Tommy, no Nate, no Galino, not even the people who were just professionally obligated to be around her. She pushed everyone away, one by one, in this desperate attempt to hold on to Monty's company, to hold on to some version of the life she had before. And now she's standing completely alone, inside a company that is bleeding out, surrounded by documents that are raising questions she is not sure she wants answered. And the trailer is showing us a Cammy who is finally, painfully starting to reckon with all of that. The whole version of her past that she's been living inside is going to start unraveling. And watching that happen to a character who is already so fragile, already so close to the edge, is going to be genuinely hard to watch. Not in a bad way. In that Landman way where the show makes you feel the weight of every single revelation right alongside the character. And the trailer gives us these glimpses of Cammy in moments that feel really solitary and almost eerie. She's not surrounded by boardrooms and arguments and people pulling her in different directions like she was in Season 2. She's quieter now, more internal, and that quiet is somehow more unsettling than all the noise of last season, because it means she's finally sitting still long enough to actually look at what's around her. And what's around her is a company that is collapsing, a legacy that is more complicated than she ever allowed herself to believe, and a truth about her husband that is going to cost her something she can never get back, which is the comfort of her grief. Because grieving a version of someone is one thing, but finding out that version wasn't entirely real, that's a completely different kind of loss, and Cammy is heading straight for it. Now I want to talk about something the trailer hints at that I think is going to connect Cammy's world and Tommy's world in ways we haven't fully seen yet. Because think about it, those documents Monty hid, the ones with no electronic trail, they didn't just appear out of nowhere. They exist because Monty was doing something that needed to stay off the books. And whatever that something was, it happened inside M-Tech, the same company that Tommy worked inside for years. the same company that Nate knew intimately, the same world that Galino was connected to in ways that were never fully spelled out. So when Cammy starts digging into those documents and pulling on that thread, there is every chance that what she finds is going to reach into CTT's world, into Tommy's world, into Galino's world. And suddenly, these two storylines that felt separate at the end of Season 2 start converging in ways that are going to make everything more complicated and more dangerous for everyone involved. That convergence is what I'm most excited about heading into Season 3, honestly. Because the show has always operated with these parallel tracks, Cammy's story over here, Tommy's story over there, and they've intersected at certain points, but never fully collided. But the trailer is giving off this energy that Season 3 is where those tracks finally meet, and when they do, the fallout is going to be massive. Because if Cammy's investigation into Monty's hidden documents leads her back to something that implicates people still operating in this world, people with power and money and no patience for exposure, then she's not just a grieving widow trying to save a failing company anymore. She's a liability. She's a threat. And the people who have the most to lose from whatever is in those documents are not going to sit quietly while she keeps digging. And that puts Cammy in a kind of danger that is very different from the corporate pressure she faced in Season 2. Last season, the stakes were financial and emotional. This season, the trailer is suggesting the stakes are physical, real, the kind where people get hurt or silenced, or worse. And Cammy walking into that completely alone, with no Tommy, no Nate, no Galino, to even pretend to have her back. That is genuinely terrifying, because she's sharp and she's stubborn and she's capable, but she is not built for this kind of fight. She was never supposed to be in this kind of fight, and the show throwing her into it anyway, isolated and armed with nothing but her grief and a stack of damning documents, is exactly the kind of cruel, brilliant storytelling that makes Landman so hard to look away from. And while all of that is unfolding, the trailer also gives us just enough of the broader world of the oil business to remind us that CTT and MTech are not operating in a vacuum. There are other players in this space, other companies, other interests, other people watching what Tommy is building and what Cammy is losing, and calculating how they can benefit from both. Landman has always been smart about that, about showing you that the personal drama is always happening inside a much bigger machine. And Season 3 looks like it's going to expand that machine significantly. The stakes are getting bigger, the players are getting more dangerous. And the two people at the center of it all, Tommy trying to hold everything together, Cammy trying to uncover everything that was hidden, are both running out of time in their own ways.